Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast, where I teach educated, successful couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships so that you can stop compromising and start feeling fully alive in your relationship. I'm Alexandra Stockwell, aka the Intimacy Doctor. I'm a physician, a relationship and intimacy coach, and I'm an intimate marriage expert. My husband and I have been married for 27 years. We have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing marriage. I've shown hundreds of couples how to do so as well. So if you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how. Now, let's dive in. Well, it's November, but you're going to be very excited for the holidays. This is the time when, if you are standing in line at the grocery store, I guess that's not really the right reference point anymore with so many people placing their orders online. But anyway, this is the time when Oprah is going to be putting out her gift-giving guide, and every other media outlet is going to be emphasizing that. And this is the Intimate Marriage Podcast's gift-giving guide of sorts. I do really strongly believe in my book, Uncompromising Intimacy, as an ultimate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever New Year's gift. But today we're going to focus on some other kinds of gifts. And with me today is Sarah Tomchesson. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk holiday gifts and sex toys.
That's it. There's a way in which it's really nice to build the anticipation, and there's a way in which it's nice to go right for the juicy goods. So I got an email from a representative from Lovehoney, which makes these toys, and I'm going to say a lot more about them, but do you want to just say anything about Lovehoney, the company, or your affiliation? I know that you are a sex educator and you also represent Lovehoney, which means we can have a really amazing conversation.
Yeah, so I'm the resident sexual wellness advisor for Lovehoney, and Lovehoney has been around for 20 years. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people in the US aren't as familiar with Lovehoney because they did start in the UK. But we are an online retailer with a really wide range of products. We actually make a lot of our products. So one of the things that I think sets us apart from other retailers in the US is that you can get a value when you're shopping with Lovehoney because, we're making all of our own toys, and we do a lot of product testing. Our sister brands are Womanizer and We Vibe. So we've got just a really wide range of products. And as an online retailer, discretion is just one of our key tenets. So we send things. I'm sure your Advent calendars arrived in really boring brown boxes. They say LH Trading on them, so no one's going to have any idea what's arriving at your doorstep.
Yes, that is so true. And I just want to say that I love the name Lovehoney. It's like such beautiful, inviting marketing, because Lovehoney is something that would appeal to the kinkiest of them. And Lovehoney would appeal to the really gentle, vanilla, romantic, and anything in between. So I really just honor that name. And you referred to the Advent calendar. So I want to say something. Advent calendars were a really big part of my childhood growing up. I am Jewish, but for various reasons that I'm not going to go into today, my family celebrated a lot of Christian holidays. And starting when I was about 7 years old, we had an Advent calendar every single year. And I associate Advent calendars with a kind of magic and a building of anticipation. In some ways, Advent calendars like just inherently contain all the goods of foreplay. It's like you got to start with day 1 and then comes day 2, and there's just no rushing all the way to day 24 or 25, depending on how your Advent calendar is set up. I mean, it's full of magic and promise. And in the case of Advent calendars and their origins, the promise of Christmas morning and celebration and toys and joy and gratification and togetherness. And so the fact that Lovehoney makes Advent calendar, sex toy Advent calendars, I just think is like this titillating taboo to take this really fun, benign, family-oriented, child-centered thing and bring it into the mature bedroom. So we're going to take this conversation into the mature bedroom, but that really is the context to be talking about this. I have to say, these are Advent calendars that have no specific connection with Advent as the time before Christmas. You can have Advent in July, you can have Advent in January, and these are amazing gifts to give for Advent in December.
I just appreciate that you recognize the nostalgia of the Advent calendar. And I think that you're absolutely right that idea of the anticipation. And I think as we go through the calendar, you're going to see, especially with the 24-day calendar, that there really is an arc. It's taking you on a journey, and there's a build up to, your final reveal in the calendar.
Yes, exactly. And actually, there's one more thing I wanted to say, which I think it's part of the brilliance of the Barbie movie, that it's a childhood phenomenon addressed from a very adult perspective. And these Advent calendars also tap into a childhood phenomenon, that like anticipation, and it is very much from an adult perspective. So let me say that when your associate contacted me and we discussed creating this podcast episode, she said I could have either the 12-day calendar, meaning there are 12 different gifts, or the 24-day calendar. And I was like, I don't want to choose between. I want both of them. Desire builds, and they each contain such amazing things. So she honored me. She honored my desire, which, let me just emphasize, the only way my desire could come true is if I spoke it, which I did. And so I have with me, if you're listening through an audio podcast platform, great. I'm going to make this as appealing to you as I can. But this is an episode you might well want to hop over to my YouTube channel so that you can see the video also. The link will be in the show notes for you to watch on YouTube, where you'll have the visual delight as well. But I'm going to do my best to describe things as we go. So I'm holding up a red rectangular box, which it doesn't actually, it does say Lovehoney at the bottom very discreetly, but mostly it looks like it could be a box that came from Macy's or something like that. Just a few like secular holiday motifs on it. And
isn't it so pretty?
It is so pretty. And it just has a heart and some snowflakes and stars. It's just very lovely. And I do want to emphasize what Sarah said already, that when these arrived at my doorstep, they came in a very nondescript brown cardboard box. And when I opened them, I still didn't know exactly what it was until I took it out. And if I had just seen this red box, I still would not have known that there were sex toys in it if I hadn't scrutinized the website page and so immediately recognized it. So this is the 12-day one that is red, and I'm going to flip open the top the way one opens a book, and inside there literally are indicators of 12 different windows. They're different shapes, different fonts almost. So there's some fun visual variety. It's not like a scene of skaters in a New England town like some of the advent calendars I've seen. It's all just pretty much red with the numbers, but certainly makes you wonder what's in them. And we're going to find that out together. Then I have also the 24-day calendar, which is purple and otherwise the same exact thing with this elegant, discreet box and secular, fun-looking colors. It does not look like sex toys are in it. It looks like there's like an elegant silk scarf inside, or maybe a pair of driving gloves. I'm just trying to convey that no matter what your family situation is, you wouldn't mind having these be discovered.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but I really love nice packaging. And I think that the packaging on these is just a true feat, because you would have no idea how much of a treasure trove you're about to open up, because it's really compact and really elegant.
I totally agree. And for people who like things to, the bed to be made and the lights just so, if those kinds of sensual experiences contribute to a better sexual experience, you're going to enjoy these boxes too. All right, so of course, people who are with their partner and wanting to have fun, well, rule breaking can be very exciting. So you always could go straight for item number 24, window 24, or you could make it a math problem, open window 3, then 6, then 9. But we're going to be rule followers today. So let's open up window number 1. If you're listening, with a podcast platform on iTunes or somewhere else, you may hear me just like perforating the window. And what do I find inside? There's a cord, which I'm going to put down. And again, lovely packaging. Why don't you tell us what I have just opened in window number 1?
I am going to encourage folks with the 24-day Advent to start with the first box, because this is a rechargeable bullet. It's really powerful, multi-speed, and the thing that's amazing about this is that you're actually going to be able to use it with lots of different items in the Advent calendar. So the idea with the 24-day calendar is really, if you have never used toys before, you can get this calendar and you're going to be outfitted with virtually any adventure that you're going to want to go on sexually. And this bullet is going to be able to be inserted into a number of the items in the calendar to turn them into vibrating shapes. So there's all kinds of silicone shapes throughout the calendar that then you insert the bullet into, and you've got a set of vibrating anal beads, a vibrating G-spotter. And so the bullet really is the kind of fun warm-up item that you're going to be able to use on its own or with a number of things that are in the calendar.
Okay, this is so wonderful. And for those, I'm not going to presume anybody knows anything. So the bullet really is, it looks like a long capsule. Like if you're used to taking capsule vitamins, this is long and shiny silver. And I'm assuming that this charger plugs in somewhere. And then you get to have this soft, smooth bullet capsule shaped item causing sensation, sensation, sensation. Okay. So now let's go to what would be in window number 2.
Have you go to, oh yeah, sure. Let's do number 2.
Okay.
And then we might start dancing around a bit.
Okay, that sounds really good. And I want to say that one of the reasons that we're doing this is I know that as a listener, you're here because you want to explore and expand and learn. And of course, there are many episodes where you can explore and expand your communication skills. You can expand how you think about sex. And we're really, in this episode, getting very much into the particular details of how you may want to use toys to explore and expand. So I have what looks like some silicone, and I'm going to open it up so I can access it. Do you want to talk about what this is, Sarah?
I love that the second thing in the box is a stroker, because right off the bat, I think that a lot of people have a misconception that toys are only for vulvas. And the truth is that our anatomy is much more analogous than we are taught that it is. And we all have sensitive nerve endings, erectile tissue throughout the body. So this stroker is for penises, and you can insert the bullet into the stroker and make it vibrating. So now on day 2, you've got something that both partners can use. The bullet can be used throughout the body. The bullet can be inserted into the stroker. And the thing that I really like about strokers for couples is, of course, like, I'm a big proponent of mutual masturbation, but also strokers can just be a nice way to add sensation into the mix and create opportunities for exploring pleasure that aren't dependent on penis and vagina sex, right? Because we know that this isn't something that folks want to do every day, right? So this is our second item in the kit, is a vibrating stroker.
So imagining you're in bed, you've opened this up, this is going to be something, especially, if there's a penis in the room, this is going to be a great toy to enjoy. All right, which number window should we open next, Sarah?
I think we should go to number 4.
Okay. So while I open that, I'd like to, in addition to opening these toys, talk about how one would introduce this. Like, let's say, okay, if your relationship, you use toys regularly, it's like an exciting thing when one of you brings a new toy home. This is just going to be like in the sex toy candy shop, and you're going to have so much fun. But if sex toys are not part of your repertoire, then let's talk to that couple, because, if you're listening and you buy this and suddenly your spouse is opening this, it could be overwhelming. It could be not exactly the kind of exciting, titillating energy that I'm bringing to this conversation. So let's talk about, do you have guidance for what somebody might say when they order it, but before it's opened, or once it's open, different ways to actually pace yourself? Because the goal is never to be overwhelming. The goal is to expand your repertoire, your emotional repertoire, your sexual repertoire, and for this conversation, your sex toy repertoire, at a pace that has the right amount of edginess and not too much.
Yeah, this is a great question. So first off, something that you said earlier is that a lot of your episodes have focused on communication and sort of those building blocks, those foundational elements for intimacy in your relationship. So if you've got those skills already, I mean, that's where I'm always going to tell people to start. Sex toys are something that you can add into the mix as a way to ignite and sort of turn the volume up on great sex that you're already having, but they're never going to be a replacement for open communication, for dealing with the issues that come up, particularly in long-term relationships. So like sex toys are not a quick fix, right? First, let's just get that out of the way. And I think that, check in with where you're at in your relationship. If you're really excited about going all in on a sexual adventure and you want to have everything that you possibly could need, get the 24-day calendar. If you are really new to toys and you're curious about trying some new sensations, about bringing in the element of play and fun into your relationship, then I would say start with a 12-day calendar. Because certainly if you start opening things up and you're like, this feels overwhelming, if you anticipate that that's how you're going to feel, then you don't need to have every single shape and toy and cuff and, accessory under the sun. So with the Advent calendar, I think of it as an invitation to open up play. Approach it like an exploration, a revisiting, a refamiliarizing yourself with your own and your partner's bodies and what kinds of sensations you like to explore. So it can be like a real, I think treating it like a game of like, there's no pressure. You don't have to like everything. If there's something that's in here that you don't want to try, ditch it, right?
Or put it in the drawer because you might be interested in the future. The way you're talking, I'm actually reminded a little bit of a twist of the game Twister, where you spin the arrow, you spin it, and then it will say, left foot red or whatever. And then you see how it works. And sometimes you end up in a comfortable position and sometimes you don't. And the thing about a good Twister game is when you end up in a position that's uncomfortable or sort of awkward or outright impossible, you laugh. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. And so I want to emphasize what you said as well, that this isn't a quick fix. So if you're not having sex or your sex is really unappealing, don't think that getting the sex toys is going to change that. That could exacerbate the problem. It just contributes to disconnection and feeling inadequate and incompetent at making love with one another. But if you look at it almost like going to a museum, it's a museum where you can touch things. In fact, you can touch them in all kinds of intimate places, but it doesn't mean, it could be the first thing is you just see what the inventory is, or if you get the 24-day Advent calendar, then maybe you take a year and open one every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I love that reframing to think of it as, obviously it's structured like a traditional Advent calendar where you're opening one every day in December leading up to Christmas. But there's no rule book with, it's not like it arrives and it's going to explode if you don't open them in time. Like you get to do this at your own pace. And I had you go to box number 4 because this is an orgasm balm. And I think it is also number 9. So day 9, there's a sandalwood candle in there. And the reason that I like these elements.
Yeah, I just want to say it's called menthol pleasure balm. Although you're saying it's an orgasm enhancer, but right off the bat, menthol seems sort of intense. Will you talk to me about that? I definitely have no experience with menthol at any time other than when my upper respiratory system is all clogged up.
Right. So the idea with the balm is that it's going to be a sensation enhancer, and it's also going to bring blood flow in. And so treat it just like you would testing out vibration. Don't like throw the whole kitchen sink at it, right? Apply a little bit. You can use it on your nipples. You can use it on any of your sensitive erogenous zones just to enhance sensation. Just notice what it feels like. You don't even have to necessarily engage in sex, right? If you and your partner already have like a loving touch routine, you love to make out, just apply a little bit of orgasm balm and notice how it changes the dynamic. Similarly, the candle that's in the kit. It's just like adding an extra sensory element into the mix. And this can be super low pressure. This doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have to have 3 hours of sex that night.
The way you're describing it, it's almost like, a more benign example would be like adding mayonnaise to your sandwich. Or I was thinking also of like adding a little bit of hot sauce. Yes. I just, hot sauce could be what you want, but that could be a little intense. So I started with the mayonnaise. Okay. That is awesome. And actually, I'm not going to open, I'm happy to open number 24, but I'm not going to open all of those because if you're into this and, if you're still listening at this point, I'm assuming this is interesting to you. I'm not going to take away the surprise of all 24 windows, but we will open number 24. So holding up my elegant purple packaging and gonna pop. And there's the Velcro, the perforation opening. And what am I pulling out, Sarah?
All right. So, I said that there's an arc, right, to these Advent calendars. And the idea is that this can be a gift. This can be the gift, right? The Advent calendar, with day 24 being the really big prize that you're opening up. This is the Womanizer Classic. So having been in the sex toy industry since 2007, I can tell you all of the new technologies that have come out during that time. And this technology is one of the most innovative developments in sex toys that I've ever seen. It's called Pleasure Air. So the way that Pleasure Air works is this device is like really, it's ergonomic, it's curved, and then it's got like almost what looks like a little suction head at the tip of it.
It almost looks like a mini surfboard, a purple mini surfboard with some area for suction. So keep telling us about that.
So the difference between Pleasure Air, and there are suction toys that came out on the market after Womanizer developed this technology, and they actually just suck. And what happens with suction is it desensitizes the nerve endings. Pleasure Air doesn't actually, this toy, the Womanizer Classic, is designed to be used on the clitoris.
Right. So the clitoris goes where this little, or I should say this goes on directly on the clitoris. So actually, let me just ask some very basic questions. I'm glad to ask them for a few reasons, including the fact that I have a lot of engineers and male physicians who are super logical, and I can imagine these questions arising. So, of course, there's a variety in size of clitoris. It's normal to have a clitoris which is totally, totally tiny, like as small as the pea and the princess in the pea. And then it's also totally normal to have a clitoris which is larger and more robust, and it's sort of more obvious how that would be the homologue to the penis. But I'm saying that because, let's see, the opening, at least at the top, it's sort of dark in there, so I can't see what happens inside. But at the top, it looks like it's about 1 centimeter high, which is bigger than most women's clitoris is going to be. So is this going only on the clitoris, or it's going in the region of the clitoris and then the clitoris will be contacted? Will you talk about that?
Yeah. So when you apply lube around that rim of the head of the toy, what happens is the pleasure air there's like a flow of air pressure within the toy that creates a suction onto the clitoris. And there are actually different
with
size...
the lube providing the sealant.
Yes. And there are different size heads that are available that you can get online. There may even be a standard one that you can change out in this box. So for some folks, they do need a different size head. So there's a larger head and then there's a smaller head. And even for folks who just want to vary the sensation, because when you decrease the size of where the air pressure is, you're intensifying the sensation. So it creates a bit of a seal. I've actually got, for folks who are watching on YouTube, I've got my little 3D printed clitoris, which a lot of folks think that the external portion of the clitoris is all that there is. This is the tip of the iceberg, what we're seeing externally. And just like the penis, when it engorges with blood, when someone becomes aroused, it does get larger. So the toy makes contact with this portion of the clitoris, but it's actually sending sensation down through the internal legs as well. And what this does is, I would say that that pleasure air is the closest that you can get to simulating the feeling of oral sex. It has that kind of subtlety to it. And the air pressure actually doesn't make any direct contact with the clitoris. So people report that they can actually continue to maintain arousal because it's not like the clitoris becomes overly like desensitized.
All right. Well, that does sound like quite a toy for day number 24. It's really like the main thing hearing you speak. And I guess this is what I want to say to any of my very engineering-oriented people. Just see what happens. Yeah. It doesn't actually matter how it works. It matters what it does for you and your partner. And you can investigate all of those things. But when you're opening it, keep your focus on delight.
Yes. And the thing that I love about the shape of the womanizer, I mean, it can certainly be used for solo play. It can be used for warm up. There's actually a really nice range of intensities, so you can build arousal with it. And it can also be held between your bodies. So during other kinds of play that you love engaging in, you can use the Womanizer Classic just to maintain arousal or intensify the things that you already love doing. So this is just like, one of our, I would say, customer favorites, like an all-time, really well beloved toy. And it is the climax, so to speak, of the Advent calendar.
The climax of the Advent calendar. And if you choose to purchase this, it will be the climax of your evening as well. This has been so fun, and I hope it really expanded every listener, either because you've already purchased this because you want it, or you took this as a primer and learned how to open up to sex toys and include them in your repertoire. Like, this is a conversation I've never really had on the podcast, and as someone devoted to serving couples in enhancing their passion, this is an important part of the conversation, either to include or to consider, and then choose not to include, whatever suits the particular couple. Now, in every episode, I ask my guests, based on the fact that intimate relationship is the ultimate vehicle for personal growth, I ask, what have you learned about yourself as a result of being in an intimate relationship? Now, in the context of this conversation, I'd like to ask you, if it's not too, you have such a deep soul and an articulate presence, so I don't think it's going to be too weird a question for you, but if it is, we'll figure that out. But what have you learned about yourself as a result of experimenting with sex toys?
Sex toys were actually a vehicle that opened my sexuality up. So that's why I'm such a sex toy evangelist. And I think through exploring my sexuality, which has been largely with toys, it has given me confidence. It makes me feel empowered when I'm connected to my sexuality. I feel better at many of the things that I do in my life when I am engaging in some sort of way erotically with myself and with my partner. And I'm actually in a stage where I'm learning, being in a long-term relationship, that dependence on a partner for my sexual power really doesn't work for me, right? Like, we're all going to go through so many different layers of being in relationship with our sexuality, and to expect that that's going to align 100% with a partner all the time is false. Yes, absolutely. So, toys are a great way for me to maintain that connection to my sexuality regardless of what else is going on. And that is, really a lifeline for me. I feel like I show up in a more focused, present, grounded, empowered way in my life when I'm connected to my sexuality.
Well, that clearly makes you the right person to be the resident sexual wellness educator for Lovehoney and sex toys in general. That is just magnificent. As we wind up here, is there anything else that you want to make sure is included in our conversation?
Yeah, I guess this will be airing as we are going into, the Black Friday season. So we are having a site-wide sale at lovehoney.com. If you are interested in exploring sex toys, either for the first time or expanding your collection, this really is the best time of the year to do that, because you're just going to be able to get so much more value for your spend. And we also have monthly workshops that I host with Lovehoney. So if you haven't been to the site before, I also encourage you to explore around. We have a huge advice section of the site, and for folks who are on our email list, you get notifications about our monthly classes.
Okay, amazing. There will be links in the show notes to these products, to the site, and I'm very intrigued to find out what your workshops are on. I'm going to look for the emails myself. Sarah, thank you so much for this kind of intricate conversation, details and boxes, all in service of permission, invitation, and sexual exploration. So thank you so much for joining me. I just have one more thing to add, because while that conversation was recorded and actually edited, today I just found out that Lovehoney is extending all of my listeners, every single one of you, the opportunity to use a promo code, Intimate Marriage, in capital letters. So if you go to the Lovehoney website and at checkout you put in Intimate Marriage, you'll get 15% off anything that you buy on their site, whether it's the Advent calendars or anything else. So in the show notes, you'll find the promo code Intimate Marriage, as well as the link to Lovehoney's website. And I'm really excited because if you want to get some toys, obviously use the promo code.